Hello, my name is Clara. At my parents' Thanksgiving dinner last year, the scene was a carefully constructed illusion of perfection. A 20-pound turkey glistened under the dining room chandelier, the cranberry sauce held the perfect cylindrical shape of the can it came from, and the marshmallow-topped sweet potatoes seemed to glow with an almost radioactive orange. Everyone was smiling, but it was the kind of brittle, high-effort smiling you see in a pharmaceutical commercial just before the list of side effects. My 8-year-old son, Leo, approached the head of the table, clutching a small, handmade card. He'd spent days on it, a masterpiece of glitter, painstakingly crooked letters, and an army of tiny, hand-drawn turkeys. He held it out with both small hands, his eyes shining with that pure, unfiltered hope only a child possesses, waiting for the same thunderous applause his cousin always received. My father, Robert, took it from him. He gave it a single, dismissive glance, and then he let it fall from his fingers. It fluttered to the floor like a dead leaf, landing beside his polished shoe. He then looked my little boy directly in the eye, and in a voice loud enough that no one could ever pretend they hadn't heard, he said, "Children who don't even know who their real father is don't get to call me Grandpa." The world stopped. The entire room seemed to hold its breath. Forks froze halfway to mouths. Across the table, someone's wine glass tipped over, a slow-motion disaster, spilling a dark red stain that bled across the pristine white tablecloth. But before I could even find my voice, before the rage could form into words, my 11-year-old daughter, Maya, shoved her chair back from the table. It screeched across the hardwood and crashed against the wall with a sound that cracked the silence wide open. She marched straight to my father and uttered a single, devastating sentence that made every single adult at that table go completely, terrifyingly quiet. To this day, I get goosebumps just thinking about it. So, I want to know. Tell me right now in the comments, what do you think an 11-year-old girl could say to shut down an entire room of grown-ups in less than 5 seconds? Drop your guesses below. I promise I read every single one. And if your own family has ever used your children as weapons against you, I want to hear your story too. Hit that subscribe button because what happened next didn't just end a dinner party. It demolished my old life and built a new one from the rubble. I'd been dreading the 50-minute drive from my place in Chicago to their house in Oak Park all week. Crossing over the Eisenhower Expressway always feels like passing through a portal, leaving my real life behind and entering the one I'd fought so hard to escape. A cold November rain slicked the roads that afternoon, the wipers slapping a frantic, hypnotic rhythm against the windshield, blurring the city lights into long, watercolor streaks. In the back, Maya was nervously fiddling with her seatbelt, humming a song from her school play to keep Leo calm. He had his nose pressed right against the glass, asking for what felt like the 100th time if Grandpa would really, truly love his surprise. For years ago, my husband, Mark, was killed on the I-90 when a semi-truck lost control and crossed the median just west of the city. He was 32, an engineer coming home from a late shift at his firm. Maya was 7, old enough to remember the 2 uniformed officers standing on our doorstep, their faces grim. Leo was only 4, far too young to grasp why Daddy just never came home from work again. The life insurance policy paid out $3,200,000 after taxes. I took that money and buried it, metaphorically speaking. It went into a fortress of high-yield savings accounts and a carefully managed brokerage portfolio, earmarked for college, for a new house free of ghosts, for a future. I never spoke of the exact figure to a single soul, but somehow my parents found out. My mother, Diane, cornered me at the reception after the funeral, while platters of cold cuts and casseroles cooled on the kitchen counters and relatives mumbled condolences in the living room. Her eyes, red-rimmed from what I thought were tears of grief, were already calculating. Her voice was a soft, insistent whisper. Mark always took such good care of everyone, didn't he, Clara? I'm sure he made arrangements to ensure the whole family would be taken care of now, too. My father, Robert, stood just behind her, his arms crossed over his chest, nodding slowly as if the matter was already decided. As if my husband's sudden, violent death was just another unfortunate family expense that needed to be allocated. Within a week, The requests started rolling in. At first, it was small. Just a little help with the funeral flowers. Dear, we had to pay for them up front. Then, after a summer storm, their roof suddenly needed a complete replacement. Then my sister Sophia's car transmission died right before a big job interview. Then her daughter, my niece Chloe, needed just a little boost for her private school tuition at that absurdly expensive academy in River Forest. Every single time I showed the slightest hesitation, my mother, Diane, would summon the waterworks. She'd quote scripture at me, verses about honoring your father and mother, reminding me that Mark, a man who couldn't stand their entitlement, would have wanted his money to stay in the family, to keep us all together. The manipulation was so transparent it was almost insulting. Finally, I started saying no, in public, loudly and clearly. At Easter brunch that year, I told them point blank, the money is for the children's future. It is not a slush fund for handouts. The fallout was immediate. They began their campaign, whispering to cousins over backyard barbecues, telling neighbors at block parties, confiding in the pastor after Sunday service. They told anyone who would listen that I'd received a massive, multi-million-dollar payout from Mark's policy and had immediately slammed the door on my own flesh and blood. They said I'd turned cold overnight, that grief had twisted me and made me greedy. What they never knew, what they could never comprehend, was that I never actually stopped paying for everything. I set up a labyrinth of silent, separate accounts. I created trusts in my name only, layered so deep I wasn't even sure a forensic accountant could unravel them. Through these invisible channels, I paid for it all. My father's experimental knee surgery, my mother's country club membership, even Chloe's ballet lessons and Sophia's expensive gym membership, the very things she couldn't afford but loved to post about on Instagram. I routed everything through anonymous online bill pay services. They complained to the entire world that I was a stingy monster who had abandoned them in their time of need, all while their mortgages, car payments, and credit card bills vanished into thin air like magic. I let them hate me for it. That lie was my shield. It was my quiet rebellion, my one way of loving them from a safe distance, a way to fulfill what I saw as a grim duty without letting their toxicity burn me and my children. That Thanksgiving, the house was suffocating. It smelled of sage, melted butter, and attention so thick you could taste it. The air crackled with the kind of forced, brittle cheer that makes your jaw ache from clenching your teeth. My sister Sophia arrived early with her daughter, Chloe, who immediately commandeered the living room to film TikTok dances in front of the massive cornucopia centerpiece. She posed with fake autumn leaves and a ridiculous pilgrim hat prop my mother had bought just for her. My parents had surprised her with a brand new gaming laptop the week before because, as they constantly reminded everyone, Chloe is going places. She's our little star. Chloe basked in the attention, twirling for Sophia's phone camera while the adults exchanged those empty, knowing glances that say everything and nothing all at once. Meanwhile, my Leo spent the entire afternoon clutching the gift bag he decorated himself. He'd peek inside it every few minutes, as if the precious cargo might evaporate if he didn't keep a constant watch. He'd used an entire bottle of school glue and half a container of gold glitter, the kind that becomes a permanent part of your home's ecosystem. Every time an adult walked past him, he'd duck behind the sofa, his cheeks flushing pink with that heart-wrenching mix of pure excitement and crippling nerves that only a little kid can feel. Dinner was a theatrical production. Everyone played their assigned part, but no one believed a word of the script. Forced laughter bounced off the walls, echoing over slices of dry turkey. Sophia was live-streaming Chloe helping my father carve the bird with an electric knife, the caption reading family traditions. My father snapped a photo of Chloe holding the buzzing tool like a scepter, posting it online with future chef in the making. Leo sat quietly at the kids' end of the table, his legs swinging, not quite reaching the floor. He pushed peas around his plate with his fork, waiting for his moment, not saying a word. The conversation lurched around the table in that stilted, unnatural way, jumping from football scores to Chloe's latest dance recital to thinly veiled jabs about how hard times are for so many people these days. Every few minutes, Diane's eyes would dart over to me, as if she were mentally tallying up a list of invisible debts. Robert cleared his throat far too often, the sound scraping across the forced pleasantries like nails on a chalkboard. When the dessert plates were finally brought out, uneven slices of pumpkin pie with melting whipped cream, the children were permitted to hand out their Thanksgiving cards. Chloe went first, of course. She presented my parents with a glossy, store-bought Hallmark card with a crisp $50 bill tucked inside. It was the kind of gift that's designed to be shown off. Cameras flashed from every phone. Hugs were exchanged. A wave of applause rippled around the table as if she'd just cured a disease. Then it was Leo's turn. He stood up, carefully smoothed the front of his little sweater, walked to Robert at the head of the table, and held out his handmade, glitter-bombed card with both hands. His eyes were so bright, so full of hope, waiting for that same magic to happen for him. And that's when Maya's chair crashed against the wall, leaving a deep, permanent scar in the baseboard. She was 11 years old, a whirlwind of sharp elbows and blazing, furious eyes. In 4 impossibly fast steps, she was standing right beside Robert. She didn't hesitate. She bent down, snatched the crumpled, glitter-covered card Leo had offered, now lying discarded on the carpet. Then she marched to the head of the table and slammed her own drawing down so hard the silverware jumped. It was a family portrait, one she'd been working on every night after I thought she was asleep. There was Mark, her father, right in the center, wearing the old gray NASA hoodie he loved. I was on his left, and Maya and Leo were on his right. All 4 of us were holding hands under a canopy of bright orange autumn leaves. In bold, purple marker, she had written across the top in all capital letters, "My only real family." Maya locked eyes with my father, her chin held high, her voice as clear and cold as a winter morning. "If my little brother isn't your grandson," she said, her voice never wavering, "then I'm not your granddaughter either, because I look even more like Daddy than he does." The room didn't just go quiet, it died. The air was sucked out of it. Diane's wine glass tipped, the red wine spreading across the white cloth like a slow-motion crime scene. Sophia's phone slipped from her grasp and clattered onto her dessert plate. Chloe's fork, laden with pie, froze an inch from her open mouth. Robert's face cycled through shades of red and purple, his jaw working silently. A steak knife slid off someone's plate and hit the floor with a sharp metallic ring that echoed in the horrifying silence. Leo's bottom lip began to tremble. He looked up at me, his eyes huge and swimming with tears, waiting for me to fix it, to make it all go away. But I was paralyzed, frozen in my chair. It was Robert who finally broke the spell. He leaned forward, his voice a low, venomous hiss, but loud enough for every person at that table to hear. "You want to play this game, Clara? Fine. You keep that insurance money all to yourself, and the whole world will know exactly what kind of mother you are. Facebook remembers everything, you know. We'll make sure every single person sees the truth about those kids." Diane nodded beside him, her eyes glittering with a truly ugly triumph. "We've been quiet for far too long," she added. The threat wasn't a warning, it was a promise. It landed like a fist in my stomach, and something inside of me, some tightly wound spring I'd been holding together for 4 years, finally snapped clean in 2. I stood up so fast my own chair tipped over backward, crashing to the floor. I scooped Leo into my arms. He was shaking like a leaf and grabbed Maya's hand. "We're leaving," I said, my voice flat and empty. I didn't wait for the apologies that I knew would never come. I didn't look at my mother or my father or my sister. I walked a straight line through the living room, past the twinkling cornucopia, past the gallery wall where Chloe's school portraits took center stage and photos of my own children were nowhere to be found. Behind me, I heard nothing but the vacuum of stunned silence. I didn't hear a single person call my name. No one tried to stop us. We stepped out onto the porch and into the biting November air. I fumbled in my purse for my keys, my hands shaking, while Leo buried his face in my neck, his hot tears soaking the collar of my sweater. Maya stood beside me, rigid, clutching her drawing to her chest like a shield, her jaw set in that same stubborn line that Marx used to get when he was truly angry. I buckled them both into the back seat. The engine roared to life, a sudden, angry sound in the quiet suburban street. I pulled away from the curb without a single glance in the rearview mirror. The lights of the city blurred through the rain as we drove back west, the Chicago skyline rising ahead of us like the only safe harbor left in the entire world. The rain hammered the windshield the whole way home. We pulled into our garage in Lincoln Park, and the automatic door rumbled shut behind us, closing like the final curtain on a truly terrible play. Leo was fast asleep, his head lolling against the side of his car seat, a stray piece of gold glitter still clinging to his eyelashes. Maya sat beside him, her arms wrapped tightly around her drawing, silent tears cutting clean tracks through the dust and grime on her cheeks. I carried Leo upstairs first, tucked him into his bed, and pulled the dinosaur-covered blanket up to his chin. Maya followed me like a shadow, changed into her pajamas without a word, and then crawled into the very center of my bed, curling herself into a tight, miserable ball. I lay down beside her, stroking her hair, my own heart a shattered mess, until her ragged breathing finally evened out into the slow, steady rhythm of sleep. Only when I was sure both of my children were asleep did I go back downstairs. I poured myself a glass of water that I didn't drink and sank to the floor in the kitchen, my back pressed against the cool, solid wood of the cabinets. For 4 long years, I had carried the weight of this arrangement alone. Tonight, that weight had become unbearable. I opened my phone, pulled up my banking app, and stared at the long list of recurring transfers one last time. Then I went upstairs and gently woke my children. I carried a drowsy Leo into my room and laid him down next to Maya. They stirred, blinking in the dim light from the hallway, but didn't fully wake. I sat on the edge of the bed, took a deep breath that felt like inhaling broken glass, and started to talk. "Mommy needs to tell you both something very, very important," I whispered. "And I need you to listen with your hearts." "Okay." Maya rubbed her eyes and nodded slowly. Leo just blinked up at me, confused but with that absolute trust only a child can give their parent. "When Daddy went to heaven," I began, my voice thick, "he left us a lot of money so that we would always be safe. Almost $3 million. I never told anyone how much, not even Grandma and Grandpa." Maya's eyes went wide in the darkness. "For 4 whole years," I continued, "I've used that money to pay for everything. I paid for Grandma and Grandpa's house. I paid their bills, their car payments, Aunt Sophia's car, Chloe's expensive school, everything. Every single month. I did it quietly, so they would never have to worry." Leo whispered, his voice small, "But why didn't you tell them?" "Because," I said, "the truth tasting bitter, they were being mean about the money. They wanted me to give it all to them, and they said bad things about me when I didn't. So I said no out loud, but I kept helping them in secret. I thought it was the right thing to do." Maya's voice was barely audible. "But they were so mean to us tonight." "Yes," I said, my voice hardening. "They were." I opened the banking app again and turned the glowing screen so they could both see the list of payments. Tonight, I stopped. Every payment. Every single dollar. "It's over." They watched as I tapped cancel on the biggest line item, the mortgage for the house in Oak Park. A confirmation screen popped up. I tapped confirm. I tapped cancel on Chloe's private school tuition. Confirmed. I tapped cancel on Sophia's car loan. Confirmed. One by one, every single automated transfer, every lifeline I had secretly extended, disappeared from the screen. Blair watched the screen, then looked up at me, her expression serious. "Are we per now?" she asked. A sound that was half laugh, half sob escaped my lips. "No, baby. No. We still have more than enough for us. More than we will ever need. This money was always, always for you and your brother. Tonight, I finally chose us." Leo reached out and took my hand. Maya scooted closer and wrapped her arms around my waist, burying her face in my side. I held them both, my 2 anchors in a raging sea, until the shaking in my own hands finally stopped. For the first time in 4 years, I slept through the night without a knot of dread in my stomach. My phone started exploding before I'd even had my first sip of coffee the next morning. The screen lit up like a deranged Christmas tree. Diane's name flashed first. I stared at it, then silenced the call. 43 seconds later, a voicemail notification popped up. I listened to the first 10 seconds, a shrieking tirade about betrayal, lawyers, and Mark's money, before deleting it mid-sentence. Robert called 2 minutes later. The same angry ringtone cut through the quiet of my kitchen like a chainsaw. He didn't even bother with a hello. You think you can just cut us off? After everything we've done for you? We know exactly how much that policy paid out. You'll be hearing from our attorney first thing in the morning. I pressed the block button before he could finish the threat. Sophia, predictable as ever, went completely nuclear. 6 missed FaceTime calls in a row, followed by a barrage of text messages written in all caps, so full of rage that my phone vibrated itself right off the kitchen counter. You are dead to this family. We know the truth about those kids, and you will regret this, Clara. Everyone will know what you really are by midnight. By 9 a.m., I had blocked 11 numbers. My parents' cell phones, their landline in Oak Park, Sophia's work phone, and 3 different aunts who had suddenly remembered I existed. I even had to block Chloe's iPad because Sophia was using it to send me crying emoji videos with manipulative captions like, "How could you do this to Grandma?" I finally turned my phone face down on the counter and tried to breathe. I didn't last long. At 3:07 a.m., I woke up, parched, and saw the red notification bubble on my lock screen had climbed past 600. Diane had made her post at 2:46 a.m., public, of course. It was a side-by-side photo, Mark at age 25 in his NASA shirt, next to a recent school picture of Leo, age 8. She had drawn crude red circles around their faces, with arrows pointing to their noses, their eyes, their chins. The caption was a novel, a wall of text that began, "The truth is often painful, but it must be told." It went on, "These children bear absolutely no resemblance to my beloved late son-in-law, Mark, whom we all adored. We have had our quiet concerns for years. Clara has now chosen money over her own blood. Please pray for our family in this terribly difficult time." Sophia commented within 60 seconds, a trifecta of a broken heart emoji, praying hands, and a passive-aggressive Bible verse about reaping what you sow. By sunrise, the post had over 300 shares. By the time I poured my coffee, it was at nearly 900. The Oak Park Moms Facebook group, a community of 42,000 members, had turned it into the longest, most vicious thread I had ever seen. The Presbyterian Women's Guild, which Diane had chaired for 12 years, started an official prayer chain titled Healing for a Divided Family. The comments poured in faster than I could refresh the page. I always thought that little boy looked nothing like Mark. Mark was such a good, kind man. This is just heartbreaking. So she's living off his insurance money while lying to the world. Disgusting. Someone needs to demand a DNA test for the sake of those poor babies. This explains why she never let us see the kids much. Classic gold digger move. I feel physically sick for Mark's parents. Someone managed to find and screenshot my public Venmo history from years ago, posting it with the caption, "Living large on a dead man's money." Another amateur genealogist zoomed in on old Christmas photos, drawing red lines between Mark's childhood face and Leo's, declaring no match. Not even close. The gossip wildfire jumped to the West Suburbs parents and kids group with 38,000 members. A total stranger posted baby pictures of Mark next to Leo's with the caption, "You be the judge." Another wrote, "I feel so sorry for Mark's real family. Someone should call CPS." My inbox became a toxic waste dump of fake sympathy and outright venom. A woman from Maya's soccer team sent a prayer hands emoji and asked if everything was okay at home. A former coworker forwarded the post with a string of thoughts and prayers and a very pointed side-eye emoji. Even the mother of one of Leo's T-ball teammates texted, "Hey girl, people are saying some really crazy stuff. Just checking in on you." The phone just kept vibrating on the nightstand, a constant, physical reminder of the assault. I scrolled until my eyes burned, my stomach churning with a mix of acid and rage, every comment a fresh paper cut on my soul. Maya walked into my room looking for cereal and saw my face. "Mommy," she asked, her voice small, "why is Grandma saying mean things about you and Daddy on the internet?" I slammed the laptop shut, pulled her onto my lap, and just held on tight until she finally squirmed away. And that was the moment I stopped shaking and started planning. I sat alone in the dark of my living room, the laptop glowing on my knees, the pale blue light the only thing cutting through the oppressive blackness. The house was finally silent, save for the low hum of the refrigerator and the occasional groan of the old house settling. Leo and Maya were asleep upstairs, utterly exhausted from a day of me forcing them through a routine of normalcy we didn't feel. I hadn't slept more than a handful of hours in 3 days. I opened a new browser tab and found a private DNA lab in the loop. No mail-in pharmacy kit, no gamble on the postal service. I wanted an accredited, high-security facility with impeccable chain of custody paperwork that would be admissible in any court in the country. I paid the exorbitant rush fee without a second thought. 9 calendar days for results. Guaranteed. I drove the kids downtown the next morning. Maya rolled her eyes dramatically, but held perfectly still while the technician gently swabbed the inside of her cheek. Leo, on the other hand, thought it was the coolest science experiment he'd ever been a part of, asking the tech if the cotton stick would taste like candy. I signed every form, paid in full, and walked out with a set of sealed envelopes that felt heavier than bars of gold. That weight was its own special kind of hell. Every single notification ping from my phone made my stomach plummet. Every new comment on Diane's viral post felt like a fresh stab. I must have refreshed the lab's online portal 20 times a day. I started a project, gathering and printing every photo I had of Mark at every age. His newborn picture from the hospital. His kindergarten graduation, missing a front tooth. His awkward high school prom photo. The one from his 20th birthday, where he's grinning that same lopsided, crooked way that Leo does whenever he's trying his hardest not to laugh. I laid them all out on the dining room table, a silent army of evidence. 9 days later, at 6:12 a.m., the secure email arrived. I opened it on my laptop at the kitchen table while the coffee brewed. The kids were still asleep. The house was so utterly quiet I could hear the frantic pounding of my own heart. Probability of paternity, 99.999%. For both of them. I printed the official, notarized reports. Then I took pictures of my evidence, the DNA results, and the photos, Mark at 3, Maya at 3, Mark at 8, Leo at 8, Mark at 11. The same wild cowlick in their hair, the same deep-set dimples, the same hazel eyes that seemed to change color depending on the light. I wrote one single post. Public. No emotional language, no emojis, no exclamation points. Just cold, hard facts. To everyone who has spent the last week calling my children names, spreading lies, and publicly praying for my family to be torn apart, here are the official, notarized paternity reports from an accredited laboratory with full chain of custody documentation. And here are photos of their father at the exact same ages as my children are now. My children are Mark's. They always were. The only thing they seem to have inherited from certain other relatives is the uncanny ability to spot cruelty when it's disguised as concern. We are done explaining. I hit post at 7:03 a.m. By 7:15 a.m., the first "Oh my God" comment appeared under my post. By 8 a.m., Diane's original thread was being flooded with people tagging her, demanding she apologize. You owe this woman and those children an apology. Take this down. This is disgusting. By 9 a.m., the moderator of the Oak Park Moms group, had deleted Diane's post entirely and permanently banned her for violating community guidelines against targeted harassment. The Presbyterian Women's Guild quietly removed her from every committee she sat on and deleted the prayer chain. Someone leaked the meeting minutes. Diane's name was literally struck through in red ink. My sister Sophia's employer, a regional accounting firm in a neighboring suburb, announced it was launching an internal investigation that same afternoon. The Illinois Board of Accountancy has very clear rules about public behavior that brings disrepute upon the profession, and a public, false accusation of paternity fraud apparently qualified. She was placed on unpaid administrative leave pending a full review. Her LinkedIn profile went private by noon. The tide turned so fast it gave me whiplash. The same women who had been typing poor Mark's family 48 hours earlier were now flooding my post with crying emojis and captions like "Science doesn't lie" and "Those poor babies have been through enough." I didn't feel victorious. I didn't celebrate. I just closed the laptop, made a batch of pancakes shaped like dinosaurs, and let my kids eat them in their pajamas on the sofa while the world outside, for the first time in a week, finally shut up. On a quiet Wednesday morning, a number with an 805 area code flashed on my screen. I almost ignored it. California. I didn't know anyone in California anymore, but on a whim I answered. "Clara?" A gruff voice asked. "It's your Uncle Arthur." It took me a second. Arthur, Diane's younger brother, the one who'd fled Illinois 35 years ago, opened a single taco stand in Santa Barbara and somehow spun it into a 23-location chain called Pacifico Grill. The one who never married, never had kids. The one my parents always referred to, with a mix of envy and disdain, as the rich uncle who forgot where he came from. He didn't waste time on pleasantries. "I've been following this whole damn mess," he said, his voice gravelly from years of yelling over loud restaurant kitchens. Every post, every comment, every lying, manipulative caption. "I'm done. I'm done watching my sister try to destroy the only pieces of Mark you have left on this earth." I stayed silent, holding my breath. "I flew to see my estate attorney in Montecito on Monday," he continued. "Sat in his office for 4 hours straight. Signed a brand new will and a new trust yesterday morning in front of 2 notaries and a junior partner. Everything is locked down. Airtight." He paused, letting the weight of his words land. "My current net worth is about $28 million, liquid after all taxes and debts are settled. As you know, no spouse, no kids of my own. Everyone in the family just always assumed it would all go to Diane and Robert when I'm gone." He took a sharp breath. "Not one penny. Not anymore." My breath caught in my throat. "The new sole beneficiaries are you, Maya, and Leo. If I drop dead walking out of my office tomorrow, the entire estate goes into an irrevocable trust with you as the sole trustee. The restaurants, the real estate portfolio, the investment accounts, all of it." I gripped the phone, my knuckles white. "There's more," he said. "I already wired $3 million this morning. It's in 2 separate 529 college savings plans, $1.5 million each for Maya and Leo. California law lets me fund a 529 for anyone I choose. The money is theirs right now today. It's already growing, tax-free, for their tuition, books, room, and board, whatever they need from now until they get their PhDs, if that's what they want." As we were still on the line, he started sending me screenshots. The notarized trust documents, dated and signed. The confirmation emails from the investment firm showing 2 new accounts, each with a balance of exactly $1,500,000 in my children's names. Then he sent one final image. He sent it to the family group chat, the one that still existed like a digital ghost, populated by Diane, Robert, Sophia, a dozen cousins, and me. It was a single, scanned page from his new will. Article 5, titled Disinheritance. It read, "I intentionally make no provision in this will for my sister, Diane Marie Peterson, her husband, Robert Peterson, or their daughter, Sophia Peterson, for reasons personally known to them." Underneath the image, Arthur had typed one sentence: "This is what happens when you try to erase my great-niece and great-nephew for money. Happy Thanksgiving, sis." The chat detonated. Diane sent 23 consecutive voice notes, a chaotic mix of screaming, crying, and calling her own brother a Judas. Robert typed a series of incoherent, all-caps messages about lawsuits and undue influence. Sophia threatened to contest the will, claiming Arthur was clearly mentally incompetent. 3 of my cousins left the group chat immediately. 2 others sent me private messages asking if they were still in the will. Arthur stayed on the phone with me the whole time, listening to the notification pings. "I'm selling the flagship location in Santa Barbara," he said calmly. "Moving back east next month. Those kids deserve to have an uncle who actually shows up. And frankly, I'm tired of the ocean views. The foreclosure notice for the house in Oak Park went up in February. Diane and Robert had missed 6 straight mortgage payments after my secret auto pays vanished. The bank sold their 4-bedroom colonial at a sheriff's auction for $40,000 less than they still owed. The moving truck came on a rainy Tuesday. Neighbors watched from behind their curtains as my parents loaded 30 years of their lives into a single, small U-Haul and drove away. They now rent a 1-bedroom apartment above a check-cashing place in Camden, the kind with bars on the windows and a permanent, cloying smell of fried onions in the hallway. Sophia's accounting license was suspended for 6 months after the state board concluded that her social media posts constituted a gross violation of professional conduct. The firm fired her the same week. She now works the night shift at a 7-Eleven on the Black Horse Pike, scanning lottery tickets and energy drinks for truckers under humming fluorescent lights until 2 in the morning. Her Instagram, once a curated shrine to Chloe's dance recitals and their family beach vacations, is now private and has been silent for months. Arthur closed the sale on his Santa Barbara restaurant in June. The moving van, a massive semi-truck this time, arrived in August. He bought the house directly next door to mine, a beautiful 6-bedroom stone colonial with a swimming pool and a treehouse already waiting in the backyard. He's turned the basement into a state-of-the-art game room for the kids and the attic into a guest suite that he never uses because he's almost always at our place anyway. The trust he created is now worth just over $28,300,000 and growing. The 529 plans have already crossed $3,800,000 combined. Maya wants to study marine biology. Leo wants to build rockets, just like his dad wanted to. They can do both twice over if they want to. We spend our weekends now having massive, loud Sunday dinners. Arthur makes the best carnitas east of the Mississippi. The kids call him Poppy Art. He's taught Leo how to flip tortillas in a hot pan without burning his fingers and is teaching Maya how to negotiate a business deal like a shark. At night, he sometimes reads them the same bedtime stories Mark loved when he was a boy. I've blocked every number from that old life. There's no forwarded mail, no on this day Facebook memories, no birthday cards stamped return to sender. The silence is absolute. It's perfect. Sometimes, when I'm in the old neighborhood for Maya's orthodontist appointment, I drive past the old house in Oak Park. The new owners painted the front door a deep navy blue and hung a tire swing from the big oak tree where my mother's plastic Christmas reindeer used to stand. Kids' bikes and scooters litter the driveway. The whole place looks lighter, happier. It feels like it can finally breathe again. I never feel a single pang of guilt. Blood doesn't automatically earn you the right to inflict pain. Love isn't a debt you owe just because someone gave birth to you. Family is the people who fly 3,000 miles to stand in your kitchen and say, "Those babies are mine now too." Family is the uncle who rewrites his entire future to protect 2 children who share his blood but never, ever asked for his money. Family is choosing, every single day, to show up, to listen, and to love without conditions. And for the first time in my entire adult life, I have exactly that.